the TV ad, you're Kentucky tough, but the bluegrass state gonna call your bluff. Mitch, please, Mitch, please, Mitch, please, take your money and go. Mitch, please, Mitch, please, Mitch, please, take your money and go.
What we're going to do right now is our call to action. So let's hold Mitch accountable, shall we, people? This is not just a, hey, come on and stream some internet talking heads. This is a demonstration. This is us actually getting active, us demanding better of our sitting senator, right? So let's do something about that. Where is Mitch? We've got 1 million people a month making new unemployment claims. We've got locally eviction proceedings are starting up again. It is critically important that Washington, D.C. step up, but there's been no sign of life from the Grim Reaper. Despite the fact the House passed the HEROES Act 3 months ago, Mitch failed to get the Senate to do anything useful. You've heard us talk about this. You've heard us talk about, the HEROES Act and how critical that is. But instead of, Mitch meeting the House halfway or doing anything to pass new resources for our nation, he sent everyone home for a vacation. He's spending his vacation doing his tour of the state, dropping off checks, claiming credit for every cent the CARES Act delivered to Kentucky. Even though he opposed the provisions he's taking advantage of, right? Remember, his proposals for the CARES Act were just a mountain of money to corporations. He wasn't going to do anything for actual people. So here's where you come in. Take to the Facebook, take to Twitter, go to respond to any and all of his posts with the simple, where is Mitch? Fill in the rest however you like. Mention the shuttered small businesses, the schools struggling to reopen, the unemployment numbers, the testing. What we're seeing right now, I think, is there's a big push to ratchet down the testing. I think that is likely because as schools are coming back, the colleges especially, they're going to do a lot more testing. So I think it just underscores that once again, we do not have the testing capacity that we need. We don't have the 24-hour, immediate rapid response test. Where is all that? How come Mitch, the most powerful senator in Washington, D.C., has not been able to deliver any of this? So go ahead, make a ruckus. Go on the internet, go on Mitch's Facebook page, on his Twitter page. What is the use of having the most powerful senator in Washington? He does not actually care about real people. So that's what we're doing. When when the chips are down for so many folks across our Commonwealth, Mitch has disappeared. So let's just put that out there. Where is he?
And you used to fight against cash-in campaigns. You said it was for the best. Now you ask big business to make it rain and fatten up that old war chest. Well, we see you so good taking care of yourself while you're throwing down crumbs on the Commonwealth. Mitch, please, Mitch, please, Mitch, please, take your money and go. Mitch, please, Mitch, please, Mitch, please, take your money and go.
The critique I've seen of you, both online and now in television ads, is that Kentucky deserves better than a pro-Trump moderate Democrat. How do you respond to that charge?
Well, first of all, I never called myself a pro-Trump Democrat. That was a headline that was written by a newspaper editor based on the fact that I said I would work with this president to do what is right for Kentucky. And wouldn't you want that? Wouldn't you want that in a candidate? And I said specifically with regards to prescription drug prices that this current president has said was important to him. Wow, it's important to me too. And I would work with him. Infrastructure, he has said it's important to him. I think it's important too. And so that's why I said that. But here's the thing. And I will work with any president, whether he or she someday wears a red jersey or a blue jersey, to do what is right for Kentucky. At the same time, and what makes me different than Mitch McConnell is, I will stand up to any president, whether he or she wears a red jersey or a blue jersey, if that president does something that is wrong for Kentucky or against the Constitution of the United States of America that I swore to defend 6 times in my life. And that is what makes me different than Mitch McConnell.
I don't ever believe Mitch when he starts talking, because he's not ever looking out for our best interests, right, as Kentuckians. It's the political pawn game. And I hate the idea of our children in schools being a pawn in the politics game. But you know what he said was, I think they fear more children being stuck at home. And this is his thought on what parents are thinking about students going back and parents wanting students to go back. Now, let me tell you, I have been quarantined with 2 teenagers since March. I know a little bit about what it's like to be stuck at home right now with kids. But you know what? The last thing that I have any desire to do is send my kids into any kind of circumstance that's not going to be safe for them. What we're doing with schooling should be the last issue that has anything to do with politics. It should be a bipartisan concern, right? Where are our kids? Where are they safe? Where are our teachers safe? Are our schools safe for the people in them? And this is just, to me, one more example of how Mitch McConnell takes something that should be about the well-being of Kentuckians, and he turns it into this political game that he likes to play.
Make your money and go. Make your money and go. For all the millionaires from nearly everywhere, you're the best friend they ever had. And you made your way to where the rich folks play, thanks to your wife's rich dad. While our bluegrass keeps on getting worse, the only thing you care about's a big fat purse. Mitch, please, Mitch, please, Mitch, please, take your money and go. Mitch, please, Mitch, please, Mitch, please, take your money and go.
I think ballot access is a non-sexy and super important issue that folks need to be aware of. We just saw the highest voter turnout, and in a primary ever in Kentucky. And of course, we had a big primary with exciting candidates, and we had lots of grassroots groups scaling up the work in ways they never had before, to register more voters to turn out the vote. But I think we also, for the most part, understand that that one reason turnout was so high is because we had to expand ballot access due to the pandemic. So we had early mail-in, early absentee voting, we had mail-in voting, which is really common in other parts of the country, but it really underscores just how regressive and limited Kentucky's ballot access is. We actually have some of the worst ballot access in the entire country. We take it for granted that it's okay that we only have this 12-hour window on one day in which we can go to vote, which privileges privilege, even though that can be hard for some folks to hear. And it makes it easier to disenfranchise some folks.
Mitch McConnell is staying in DC, right, to take care of this and get another relief package quickly so nobody gets kicked out of their apartment? No. In fact, as the article puts it, quote, Mitch McConnell decided to take a nice relaxing weekend at home rather than stay in DC and extend federal help, unquote. So his message to all the struggling Kentuckians is that he hopes to make it in maybe a few weeks. Can you imagine if you really depend on that $600 to feed your kids, to keep your house, over your head? It's just ridiculous. Those on unemployment benefits are more likely, according to economics studies, to look for work than those whose benefits have expired. So it's sort of the opposite. The research is showing it's the opposite of what Republicans like Mitch McConnell are saying. So there's no reason not to keep this benefit going, except he doesn't care.
Had your chance to help our state advance, but the only Paris that you love is back in France, and it's only big money that'll make you dance. So groovy. And even when you try to do something good, we get Russian mob money from a Moscow hood. You're like a 2-bit villain from a Hollywood B-movie. They had back lung disease, so they came to DC to try and get them some help. But all you could find 2 minutes of your time for their health. Well, they weren't well dressed, so they weren't so lucky. Now you've run out of time to help Kentucky. Mitch, please, Mitch, please, Mitch, please, take your money and go.
McConnell has propped up a dying coal industry as the economic engine of the region, instead of going all in on supporting economic diversity that could provide a future for communities. He failed to support legislation that would reclaim mine land for economic development. He shied away from a bipartisan coalition in his state that is nurturing tech, medical, and even solar jobs. He led the Republican effort to cut taxes on the coal companies, taxes that would help struggling miners. And he has not pushed to shore up a badly underfunded miners' pension fund. Today, McConnell has amassed enormous power and could, by virtue over his control of the Senate, undoubtedly get the miners and their communities what they are seeking, said Norman Ornstein from the conservative Competitive Enterprise Institute. He exerts absolute control over the Senate's calendar, able to schedule votes on or block any bill he chooses to. The UMWA Pension and Health Fund pumps more than $100 million into Kentucky in places hurting the most from the industry's decline. McConnell's sympathies lie with coal operators who dislike the miners' union and with fellow Republicans who dislike all unions. But he would be truly cold-hearted to let the pension fund collapse at such a high cost to the coal communities that have entrusted him and other Republicans with their votes. A group of coal miners afflicted with black lung disease met with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell as part of an effort to convince lawmakers to restore a higher excise tax on coal companies to help fund their medical care. But several said the meeting left them discouraged. David Mullins, who has worked in coal mines for 34 years and is currently battling an advanced stage of black lung disease, said he was frustrated. "It's time to act," he said.
And the way they're treating the post office right now is really troubling. There's a big national day of action on Saturday. I think there will be events happening in the Lexington area, so if people want to get involved, they'll defend the post office. Because I'll tell you what, it looks a lot like voter suppression. You know, if we got a pandemic and people can't vote safely, and if they want to vote, they want to vote by mail, and you've got somebody monkeying around with the mail, sounds like voter suppression to me. We had some other very big news this week about voting. Samantha Jean, can you clue us in?
So let's talk about voter suppression. What the heck is happening with voting in Kentucky? Luckily, Governor Andy Beshear and Secretary of State Michael Adams have reached a bipartisan agreement regarding the November election in Kentucky. We had a very successful primary turnout with record numbers of voters using mail-in ballots to cast their vote. It was a great system and it was very successful in getting folks to vote safely. So what exactly are our options for this upcoming election? So we are going to have absentee voting again, very much like what we had with the primaries, and you are able to select COVID-19 as a reason for requesting an absentee ballot. So kind of all you've got to do is just say that you are afraid of getting the sickness and you can receive that ballot. So an online portal will launch by Friday, August 21st. That's in just a couple of days, to allow Kentuckians to request an absentee ballot by mail. Ballots can be requested through the portal through October 19th. After that date, voters would have to contact their county clerk directly. If you mail back your ballot, it must be postmarked by Election Day, November 3rd. But please do not wait until then, because we're so concerned about our postal services being suppressed. Many people have said that you should actually get your ballots postmarked by October 21st to ensure that it is actually there on time. If you would rather drop off your ballot to be sure that it is received, drop boxes will be available in each county. Fingers crossed. County clerks will determine these locations, and the state is helping to purchase additional drop boxes for counties to use. But there's another option, which a lot of people don't know about yet: early in-person voting. So beginning October 13th, and lasting until Election Day, every county clerk will provide a location for safe in-person early voting. The location will be open every weekday during business hours and every Saturday for at least 4 hours. Unlike absentee voting, voters do not have to have a reason to early vote. Anyone can vote early for any reason. And then Election Day in-person voting. County election officials will decide election sites for Election Day voting. And so it's very important for you to stay informed and finding out where your Election Day voting poll station is, because it might have changed from where it has been in the past. Every county will have at least one voting super center where everyone from the county can go and vote regardless of his or her precinct. Now, be sure to have an updated ID so that you can prove your identity at the polls. This is a new provision that has not been used in the past. But if you were unable to get an ID because of COVID-19, there is a provisional document that you can sign explaining your reasoning, and you should still be able to cast your ballot. So basically, it's just really important to know your rights and be prepared for this election. Do everything you can to make sure you can cast your vote. Have a plan, whether it's for absentee voting, early voting, or if you plan to vote in person. Be prepared and make sure that your voice is heard. Personally, I am a little disappointed with this ID requirement. There are, of course, current and upcoming concerns about people being evicted and therefore not having an address or having a temporary address. I personally have moved since the primaries, and now I'm having to re-register to vote in my new county. I do have some fears about how that process is going to go, and I hope that I won't have any problems, but I have a plan. First of all, I am going to call my county clerk and just ask a few questions to clear up any concerns. Early voting begins on October 13th, but voter registration must be completed before October 5th, so don't wait. I do need to register and get my ID before then. So if you have moved recently, make sure that you re-register before October 5th. But I am making my appointment to vote on October 13th. That's the way that I'm going to go this time. I feel like the post office at this point, I'm just unsure about the whole process, unfortunately. And so I am planning to vote early. Whatever you choose, make a plan now. Get informed. Make sure that you are registered. If you have any doubt or any concerns, contact your county clerk. Don't wait. Have a plan. Go with your friends and your family. Ask your loved ones if they have a plan. Make this a group effort. Make your voices heard. Do not wait to clear up any potential problems. Make sure you are prepared for this election. Vote early, vote by mail, or make sure that you have everything you need, including an updated ID, in order to vote in person without problems. Good luck.
Miss, please take your money and go.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
It's Kid O'Connor with the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee coming back at you with a video here. I'm here at the Frankfort, Kentucky post office on Wilkinson Boulevard with my spouse and Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee fellow member, Nate Orshan. He's doing the videotape. And we just took a span of the very beginning of the protest here just to show you that people in Frankfort, Kentucky stand with the post office. And I just thought I would just give a little bit of context. There are these protests going on across the country right now. With the Donald Trump and his administration coming after the Postal Service, he has crossed a red line. He has crossed a line that affects every single American. You know, and I've been thinking about this a lot because now some of the new people are joining into the movement because, you know, when he first came after the Muslims, it may not have affected you, And if it didn't affect you, it may be harder to come out and protest. He came after LGBT people. Just so you know, we're getting an awful lot of good honks here, again, just like we did the other day outside of Mitch McConnell's office. When he came for LGBTQ people, particularly trans folk, it may not have affected you. He came after families and children who are entering into the United States to seek safety in their lives. He put children in cages. But again, it really might not have affected you, so it may not have felt as relevant. There are 170,000 dead Americans because of his ineptitude. And so now he has come after the post office, and every single one of us is affected. Whether it's a veteran who works for the post office, whether it's somebody in the rural areas who depends on the mail, whether it's folks who get their medications through the mail, poultry farmers who send baby chicks through the mail. I know it's hard to believe, but they do it. It could be a kid who is a pen pal. I heard a story the other day about a woman who sustained herself in rural areas with pen pals in the summer. So it could be something even as simple as that. Every American is affected. And on top of it, it's messing with our constitutional right to vote. We can't be a democracy if we don't get people voting. Whether you vote left or right, Republican, Democrat, Independent, progressive, however you vote, you have a right to vote. So this isn't about me as a Democrat. This is about all of us. And so we're seeing people come out. We get the news here. You hear the honks. If you haven't joined a protest, that's okay. COVID times make it hard. There are other ways to protest. Find your flavor of activism, whether it is writing a letter to your senator, whether it's calling them, sending them an email, posting things on social media. Amplify other people's voices. Amplify the voices of the affected communities, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ orgs, immigration orgs, refugee orgs, anything like that that you can. Follow people, send money. There are ways to fight back. Let's get this done because it is all hands on deck right now. Love, Kit.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
Make your money and go. Make your money and go.
I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share with our viewers just a little information about what life was like for a woman before Roe v. Wade, a woman who may have desperately wanted an abortion but could not legally get one.
Yeah, so I myself am 35, so I've never been in a world that didn't have access to safe and legal abortion, but I have, as a young adult, faced barriers to reproductive health care. And I can tell you that just trying to access birth control when I went to a college graduate school in New Jersey was hard enough. And I can't imagine being in a world where if seeking birth control was illegal or seeking an abortion was illegal. And we know far too well that even though today abortion is in theory legal and accessible, it's not for so many people. And so what we saw, in pre-Roe, what I like to tell people is that, abortions just didn't start happening after Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973. People stopped dying. There were guidelines in medical books on how to treat sepsis for individuals who sought to do abortions on themselves or went to doctors who were not doctors or really shady, dangerous positions. And so Roe v. Wade protected safe and legal access so that individuals did not have to die from having bodily autonomy. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in a moment where, for so many people across the country, depending on your zip code, you're faced with very similar circumstances that were pre-Roe, and Kentucky is no exemption.